So to wrap up, the key things to remember from this module. The Android debug bridge is essential to your Android development. Right? It provides all of your connectivity. It's the pipeline for making sure that information flows to the device and back to your development tools. Your bottom line is that if the Android debug bridge is not functioning effectively, nothing's going to work. Right, now remember that if there's any concerns, you can just use the ADB command line utility and run a kill server command, and that'll go ahead and shut the server down so it'll start up fresh for you. Again, anytime things aren't happening the way you want them to, or things just don't seem quite right, go ahead and do the ADB kill server. I don't want to give you the impression that you'll commonly have problems with it. Over the years, the ADB pipeline has gotten kind of more and more robust, but sometimes just kind of odd things will happen, so don't be afraid to use the kill server. You can't really break anything. To get the list of connected devices, just run the ADB command with the devices, and that'll list all the devices that are currently connected, both virtual devices and real devices. Remember that when you're working with the ADB command line utility, as long as you only have one device or an AVD open, any command you type will be directed to the only connected one. As soon as you have multiples, right, two devices, two virtual devices, or one device and one virtual device, you then have to start directing the commands by using the -D for a device, right, -E for the emulator, or to use the -S where you specify the serial number of the device you want to target. Now, in the context of what we're doing at this point, Eclipse is really the hub of our development. Right, is that we'll talk a lot more about its actual kind of using it as an editor and a source code level debugger and that sort of thing later. But for here, it just provides a window into the other utilities. Right? We can actually see the logcat as a view that shows up at the bottom of our Eclipse layout, or at least by default at the bottom of our Eclipse layout. And there's also DDMS, which we're going to talk about a bunch in the next module. The DDMS is an actual perspective, meaning that it's not just a window inside of Eclipse. It really kind of takes over the whole infrastructure of Eclipse. DDMS is a really powerful and really important tool and a really cool tool. So we'll talk about that in the next module. And we finished up talking about the logcat system. Remember, logcat is the Android logging system. It's a structured storage in the sense that it actually has real values inside of it. It's not just a bunch of text. Things are broken out into levels. Right? Levels indicate the importance or severity of a given message. Remember that levels are hierarchical. Right? So that verbose being kind of the lowest priority, right, all the way up to assert being the highest, and even technically a silence level, which doesn't show anything. But so that way it means that as we write our messages out there, if we want to filter them out, we basically can set our filter at a given level, and we get all the messages at that priority or higher. The tag is a really important thing to use well. We'll talk more about that throughout this course and throughout the series. Although the tag is technically just a free-form text to label a message, the reality is it's intended to identify a system or a component or at least a method that's generating the information. What you're really trying to do is group messages in a meaningful way, and that's where the tag comes in. Logcat can be easily viewed and filtered. Right? We can do it inside of Eclipse. We can do it with the ADB command, and we can even do it on our devices by just downloading a simple app. And remember that although most of what we do with logcat uses what we call the main buffer, and that'll be all you need well over 95, 98, maybe even 99% of the time. But don't forget that there's those special buffers out there, the radio buffer and the events buffer, that let you see low-level information. Right? As you start to move along, you start building sophisticated systems, being able to see that information can really be a lifesaver sometimes when you're encountering some kind of odd scenario that you're trying to work through.